The camera opens on a quiet African city neighborhood at dusk. The warm glow of streetlights reflects against sleek glass windows, while the faint hum of cars in the distance sets the tone of a modern urban life. Inside one of these homes, laughter and silence are locked in an uneasy battle. Amara, a graceful black African woman in her late 30s, adjusts her elegant but simple modern gown in the mirror. The soft light highlights her sharp cheekbones and the heaviness in her eyes. To anyone looking from the outside, she is a devoted wife and loving mother, always well put together, always in control. But inside, she feels the ground beneath her shaking. Her husband, Chike, tall and striking in a tailored navy blue suit, sits in the living room scrolling through his phone. His posture is sharp, confident, but the distance between them is almost visible in the air. For weeks, their conversations had been polite exchanges. No warmth, no spark. Amara feels the gap widening, but she tells herself silence will hold them together. Amara's children, Zara, a 16-year-old girl with braids styled neatly and a stylish denim jacket, and Kelechi, a 14-year-old boy in a crisp white shirt and sneakers, sense something is wrong. They exchange glances at the dinner table as their parents eat in heavy silence. Zara finally breaks it, asking softly, "Mom? Dad, is everything okay? You both seem different." Amara forces a smile, replying, "Everything's fine, my love. Don't worry about us." But Zara's sharp eyes linger on her mother's tired face. She isn't convinced. What the children don't know is that Amara has been carrying a secret. A few months ago, she discovered that Chike was meeting another woman. It wasn't love, at least that's what she told herself, but still it was betrayal. Amara chose silence, believing that protecting her children from the truth was more important than confronting her husband. She wanted to forgive, to preserve the image of a stable family. But every time she closed her eyes, the words she had read on his forgotten tablet haunted her. Gentle exchanges, simple notes that should have belonged to her. Late at night, when the children were asleep, Amara sat alone in the living room. The silk of her modern gown shimmered in the faint lamplight as her hands trembled holding the device. Tears welled in her eyes as she scrolled through Chike's messages. She could have confronted him. She could have walked away. But instead, she chose to fight for her marriage alone. The narrator's voice echoes in the background of this memory. Amara looked at her own reflection in the dark window. A woman torn between anger and love, silence and truth. The next morning, Zara lingered in the hallway before school. She overheard her parents in the kitchen. Chike's voice was sharp. "Amara, why can't you just let it go? I said it meant nothing." Amara's reply was soft but firm. "Nothing? Chike, you don't understand what nothing has done to me. To us." Zara froze, her body stiff. She had just heard her father confess to something that shattered the picture of love she held. She quietly stepped away, her heart racing, realizing her parents' silence hid more than she imagined. Later, Zara pulled her brother aside. "Kelechi, Mom and Dad are hiding something. I think Dad has betrayed her." Kelechi shook his head in disbelief. "What? No. Not Dad. He wouldn't." Zara's voice trembled. "I heard them. And Mom, she's hurting Kelechi. She's just trying to protect us." The siblings sat in silence, both too young to bear the weight of such truth, yet unable to unhear it. Their world felt shaken, and suddenly, childhood seemed farther away. That evening, Amara tried to gather the broken pieces of her family with the simple act of dinner. She cooked their favorite meal, set the table with care, and dressed beautifully, her gown catching the light in a soft shimmer. Chike, trying to maintain appearances, dressed in a crisp black suit. The children sat quietly, but the mood was tense. As plates were passed, Zara suddenly broke the silence. Her eyes locked on her father, her voice steady but emotional. "Dad? Do you love Mom?" The question froze the room. Chaik looked shocked, glancing quickly at Amara, who gripped her fork tightly, her pulse racing. He finally managed to answer, "Of course I love your mother. Why would you even ask that?" Zara's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "Because love doesn't hide. Love doesn't hurt Mom like this." Amara's chest tightened. Her daughter knew. Her secret, the secret she had kept buried to protect her children, had been uncovered not by her, but by the one she had tried hardest to shield. The family dinner, once meant to restore peace, had instead exposed the very truth she feared. Kelechi dropped his spoon onto the plate, his young face pale with confusion. He looked from his sister to his mother, then to his father, searching for answers he wasn't ready to hear. Chaik sat speechless, his confident exterior cracking under his daughter's gaze. Amara's eyes welled with tears, but she didn't speak. Words were no longer necessary. The silence had finally betrayed her. The camera lingers on Amara's face, a mixture of fear, shame, and love all at once. The narrator's voice returns, heavy with meaning. The truth she tried so hard to bury was now in the open, and it wasn't spoken by her, but by the children she thought she was protecting. The scene closes on the dinner table. Each family member is locked in their own storm of thoughts. Amara's silence has lost its power. Chaik's betrayal, once hidden, now sits like a shadow at the center of their home. Zara's innocence has been stripped by truth, and Kelechi's trust is shaken. The camera slowly pulls back from the table as suspenseful music rises, showing the family sitting together yet oceans apart. The narrator leaves viewers with one final thought. When love, lies, and silence collide, the ones most affected are often the ones least prepared. This was only the beginning, because what the children would discover next would shake their family to its core. The silence in the home was no longer the silence of peace. It was the silence of wounds unhealed. Amara stood in the kitchen the following morning, dressed in a soft modern gown of cream silk, her face pale from a sleepless night. Her children's questions from the dinner table echoed in her ears, haunting her. She had tried so hard to bury the truth, to keep her children safe from the shadows of her marriage. But now the truth had slipped through the cracks and found its way into their hearts. Chaik entered the room, his suit crisp, his tie perfectly knotted, yet his face heavy with guilt. He cleared his throat but said nothing. Amara stirred her tea, her movements slow, deliberate, her eyes fixed on the swirling liquid. Between them, silence grew thicker than any words could. Upstairs, Zara sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, scrolling through old photos on her phone. She lingered on pictures of her parents laughing, dancing at family weddings, holding each other's hands with joy. Was it all fake? She whispered to herself, tears falling silently. Beside her, Kelechi sat cross-legged, his usually bright eyes dulled with confusion. He wanted to believe his father was still his hero, but the cracks in that image were spreading fast. Later that day, Zara confronted her mother directly. "Mama, why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us find out like this?" Amara's eyes filled with tears as she reached for her daughter's hand. "Because, my child, I wanted to protect you. I thought keeping quiet would save you from pain." Zara pulled away, her voice breaking. "But Mama, silence doesn't protect, it destroys. We're hurting even more now because we feel like we've been living a lie." Meanwhile, Chaik's struggle deepened. At work, dressed in his navy suit, he stared blankly at his laptop screen, unable to focus. His colleagues exchanged worried glances but said nothing. The weight of betrayal, guilt, and the judgment of his own children pressed heavily against his chest. For years he had built the image of the perfect husband and father. But now, even in the mirror, he couldn't face the man looking back at him. Amara's sister, Nia, came to visit that evening. In a sleek modern jumpsuit, she carried her usual aura of confidence, but when she entered the home, she immediately sensed the tension. "Amara," she said gently, "you can't carry this alone anymore. The children know. The silence is over. It's time to decide what comes next. Amara nodded slowly, her voice soft. But Nia, if I let this marriage fall apart, what happens to our children? What happens to the family we built? Nia looked at her sister with deep compassion. Sometimes holding on to something broken hurts more than letting it go. But only you and Chaik can choose together. That night, the family gathered in the living room. The children sat close together on the couch, Zara's hand tightly holding her brother's. Amara sat opposite them in her elegant gown, while Chaik leaned forward in his tailored suit, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. He cleared his throat, his voice breaking as he finally spoke to his children. Zara, Kelechi, I made mistakes. I hurt your mother. I hurt this family. But know this, nothing changes my love for you both. You are my heart, my reason. Zara's eyes glistened with tears, but her voice was steady. Love isn't just words, Daddy. Love is what you do. And you didn't protect Mama. You didn't protect us. Kelechi looked down at his sneakers, silent, but the tears rolling down his cheeks betrayed his heartbreak. Amara's chest ached watching her children carry pain that should never have been theirs. The tension built for weeks. At school, Zara avoided her friends, unable to explain the storm at home. Kelechi grew withdrawn, his usual energy replaced with silence. Chaik, desperate to make amends, began trying small acts, cooking breakfast, helping with homework, leaving notes of apology for Amara. But trust, once broken, is not rebuilt overnight. Each act felt like pouring a cup of water on a raging fire. One Sunday afternoon, Chaik's mother, Mama Ifeoma, arrived unannounced. In her flowing modern gown, her presence carried the weight of wisdom. She sat them all down and spoke with authority. My children, I have lived long enough to know this marriages are not broken by storms, but by silence after the storm. Secrets are like termites. They eat the house from within. If you want to save this family, you must rebuild not with silence, not with lies, but with truth and forgiveness. Her words hung in the air, planting seeds of reflection. That night, Amara and Chaik sat together in the study. The lamp's soft glow bathed the room in warmth. For the first time in months, Chaik reached for her hand. His voice trembled. Amara, I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging for it. Not just for me, but for us, for the children. I can't erase what I did, but I want to fight for what we still have. Amara's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the man she had loved for years, the father of her children, the man who had betrayed her. Pain and love wrestled inside her heart. Slowly, she whispered, If we rebuild, Chaik, it must be on truth. No more shadows. No more silence. The days that followed were not easy. The family began counseling sessions, dressed in their modern outfits, sitting in a sleek office with soft chairs and warm lighting. The counselor encouraged the children to speak openly, to voice their pain. Zara, her voice shaking, said, I don't know if I'll ever look at you the same way, Dad, but I want to try. Kelechi added softly, I just want us to laugh again. Chaik wept openly, holding his children close, vowing never to break their trust again. Months later, the family sat once more at the dinner table. This time, there was laughter. The wounds had not disappeared, but they were healing. Amara looked across the table at her children's smiles, then at Chaik, who now looked at her not with arrogance but with humility. The narrator's voice rose as the camera pulled back. Love. Real love is not built on perfection, but on forgiveness. And though the scars remain, the choice to rebuild gave them something stronger than before, hope. The screen fades to black, the story closing with a powerful reminder. A family's strength is not measured by the absence of mistakes, but by the courage to face the truth, forgive, and grow together. What would you do in this situation? Tell us in the comments below.